I'm titling this video, I don't know what's going to be called up top, but for me, I'm titling this video A Woman's Right to Choose.
No, you're never gonna get it. Never ever gonna get it. No, not this time. No, you're never gonna get it. My love. Never ever gonna get it.
Obviously, we have the right to choose. We've invested with the right to select the best person that we can be with. But it's something that shockingly women do not exercise. And I gave a talk a few weeks ago to a fabulous group of women, and I talked about power, and I said, you know what, like, there's this belief that we as women have to go out and we have to get power. You know, it's out there, we got to go take it. And for women, one of the ways in which we acquire power is understanding that we already have it and we need to stop giving it away. I want to tell you the story that I shared with this group of lovely ladies a few weeks ago, and it's the story of Eve, and not biblical Eve, but mitochondrial Eve. And I love telling this story because I think we talk about women not knowing their power. When you understand how humans came to be all because of women and their power, you should be sitting on dates like Cleopatra sitting on her throne, feasting across from Julius Caesar. Like, there's no reason why any woman on this planet should not feel like Cleopatra when you understand the role that our power has played in shaping the destiny of humankind and the way that men and women relate to one another to this day. So anthropologists would call her mitochondrial Eve, and this is the woman that we can all trace our DNA, our genetics back to, this one woman who would have lived in East Africa between 150,000, 200,000 years ago, in near Lake Victoria, present day Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And Eve had an adaptation that we can say single-handedly saved the human race, because prior to Eve, there were the species that we classify as Homo erectus, and there was a major crisis among Homo erectus about 200,000 years ago, and it was that the females were dying, and they were dying in dramatic numbers, and they were dying in childbirth. The reason being is because this brain size of the Homo erectus had suddenly begun to grow. And as it grew, that meant that the head of the infant was also getting bigger. But at the same time, because the women and the men stood upright, the female pelvis was narrow, and so what you had was this anatomical bottleneck. The heads, quite frankly, were getting stuck in the birth canal, and this is before hospitals, this is for all that stuff. You know, these women trying to give birth to these watermelon-headed babies and risking life and limb to do so. Now, prior to Homo sapiens, the Homo erectus, they had estrus. So what that meant was they were programmed, really, you know, women were programmed to have these periods of sexual receptivity where they were sort of wired to mate. So if you've ever seen a dog in heat.
You ever seen a bitch in heat, Billy? She will grind herself across the grass to try and get at that itch. And she can find a way to sneak out of the backyard, any dog will do.
And so in primates that have estrus, there's sort of this mutual understanding amongst the sexes. There's an absence of like gender war or resentment, because pretty much the males and the females want the same thing. If the female is not in estrus, she doesn't want to, she's not bothered. If she is in estrus, she wants it just as much as he does, and they get together and they mate. But this was a problem for Homo erectus because the females were mating and they were getting pregnant and they were dying in childbirth. And so what happened is the population was dwindling. And then came along Eve. She had an adaptation that was single-handedly issue in the new species and save the human race. And that was this. Instead of having estrus, she had menses. It was a random genetic adaptation that evolved to allow the human female to essentially always be sexually receptive. And what that means is at one point when you had heat and there were outward signs that, yes, I want to mate. Now, and so basically the males knew when you were ovulating. Now, with the evolution from estrus to menses, it meant that our ovulation was hidden. It was cryptic. And so in order for a man to really get with us, he had to continue to sleep with us in order to guarantee that he passed on his seeds, because there was no telling when we were ovulating, when we were not. It also meant that now we could have sex at any given time. And so what this did is it gave women power. Before, when they had estrus, they sort of were a slave to their wiring. They were a slave to these powerful, potent hormones that said, have sex now with whomever. Without estrus, now that we had menses, we could technically have sex whenever. It gave us the power to say no. It gave us the power now to say, I don't want to have sex. I do want to have sex. I don't want to have sex with this person. I do want to have sex with this person. And that created a major issue for men, because now at one point the men could, if they wanted to, have sex and get it on, they just found a woman that was in heat. So now you really got to figure out a way to convince these women to have sex with you.
No, you're never gonna get sweet loving. Never ever gonna get sweet loving. No, you're never gonna get my loving. Never ever gonna get my love.
And out of that, we sort of get the meat for sex arrangement, which is essentially women needed meat. They needed iron-rich meat, and the men would go out and they would hunt and they would risk life and limb to go kill a wild animal and bring it back. Why? Because if you were able to go out and successfully hunt, it meant you could have access to women. But what Eve really acquired for the first time in the animal kingdom was free will. Eve acquired free will and the power of choice, the power to choose her sexual destiny, the power to choose when, if, and with whom she would have sex. And that single-handedly saved the human race, because now she was able to make smarter choices. She wasn't just out here having sex, risking life and limb, dying in childbirth. Now she was being sure that she was going to be with somebody who could help her through the process, help her young defenseless infant, and provide with her. Now she was making smart choices. And a woman's ability to make the right choice, to mate with the right man or right men, because some of these early societies were polyandrous, single-handedly saved the human race from extinction, because childbirth for the better part of human history was and still is quite deadly. So what that means is choosing the right man for the better part of human history has been a matter of life and death. It has been a matter of survival, which is why it baffles me now in 2017, when women have unprecedented rights and autonomy and access to men, that we see women in situations where they are attached and they are committed to men who are not committed to them.
Girl, you need pussy control.
Pussy control.
Rachel, Lynn, Lindsay.
And I started thinking about this after watching The Bachelorette with Rachel Lindsay, and when she chose Brian over Peter, and the primary reason was because Brian was ready and he gave her the ring. Now look, this is all reality TV, so you can take it with a grain of salt, but he was ready, and Peter was like, look, I'm just not ready to get down on one knee, but I promise you, I want to continue to get to know you, and if I like you enough, I'll be with you. And a lot of the women thought that Rachel should have chosen Peter, and I was astounded, because I was like, well, why? Peter gave her a promise, and this other dude gave her a ring. But I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about how often women will give up their power in exchange for promises and pillow talk. How often we find women who are involved in these situationships with men, hoping that if they continue to give the man what he wants, then ultimately one day that man will reward them by giving them what they want. We see women essentially giving up their power of choice by prematurely committing to men who have not yet committed to them.
What makes you think you can just walk back into her life without a good fight?
The game-changing relationship for me, where I said, okay, if I'm not out here dating and having my rotation. And when I say dating, I don't necessarily mean mating. I just mean dating, whatever that means to you. I'm losing. I dated this man. He was an older man. And when I first met him, man, he had these beautiful eyes, beautiful smile, this energy. I went home and I texted one of my best friends. I said, girl, I'm gonna get with this guy. He just had this aura. I was like, he is mine. Like, he just doesn't know it. And so lo and behold, the next time I saw him, we started talking, and like that we started dating. It was like the next time I saw him, we were dating. And we were dating, and it was going really well. And again, I confess, I think before we really established who we were, and what we, before we established the nature of our relationship and whether or not it would be committed and all that stuff, things got really serious between us. And he was just so doting, and he was attentive, and he was kind, and he was just wonderful, and he was an older guy. And there were some red flags. He, really had not been married or anything like that, but I just ignored them all. Because I was into it. And then all of a sudden, like, he's just started getting kind of distant, and I heard from him less, and all of a sudden he was busy. And so I remember, one day he never cut off contact. He was busy, you know what I mean? But I would still hear from him and everything, but he just wasn't making dates. And so I say, look, I may look young, and I may be younger than you, but it's not my first time around the rodeo. So, we don't have to do this kind of like, dance. Like, if you no longer want to date, then let's just be friends. And he said, oh, no, it's not that. I don't want you to think I'm not interested. I'm just, I'm having this crazy summer, and I'm just, all over the place, but it's definitely not that. Okay. So a little while passes, and I realize that he actually, is not occupied with something. He's occupied with someone, and that he's begun seeing someone else. And, rather get upset or reach out and be like, hey, I didn't do any of that. I just made peace with it and moved on, started dating other people, and kept it moving. And so, of course, when he realizes that, I'm not really reaching out to him anymore, when he reaches out to me, I'm just being polite, but I don't have, I'm not like extending the conversation or anything like that. Then he starts getting nervous. So then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he wants to see me. Oh, can we do this together? Can we do that? So I'm just polite. I'm like, no, I'm really busy these days. Yeah, but I was busy. Maybe another time. And so finally, after, a couple weeks, I said, you know what? Let me go out with this man. Let's see what happens. So I agreed to have dinner with him. And I could tell you this whole story, but I'm going to just give you the basic gist. I know at this point he's actually seeing someone else. I know for a fact, right? So I'm like, let's see how he's going to play this at dinner. So I get to dinner. This man acts like we never missed a beat. He acts like we're still dating, and he's all like talking in the future tense and like, oh God, I've been so busy. I haven't had any time to date this summer. God, I miss you so much. I haven't dated at all this summer. And I'm looking at him tell these lies, and I'm sitting here like, you know what? Can I get some water? Do I have flyaways? I'm just like not even paying attention to it, right? And so finally, at one point, he suggests that we do something together, and I say to him, you know what? And this whole time I've just been cordial and nice and smiling, and just, it is what it is, because at this point I didn't care enough about him to be angry. But I said to him, you know what? You are wonderful. You are sexy and successful, and you can have any woman you want. And so I don't blame you for, having the time of your life, because you're in the prime of your life right now. But where I am right now, I want a man who adores me, who is serious about me, who likes to have fun, who wants to create a life together and travel and do fun things. And right now, that's not you. And that's okay. We want different things, but you're still great in my book. And I said that with a straight face, drank some water, kept eating, and changed the subject. And so, of course, like throughout the course of this date, he's like, no, we don't, asking for a second chance and trying to recover. And And it's just, it's a mess. At the end of the night, he tries to kiss me, and I'm like, I really wasn't bluffing. I really had moved on.
Now you promised me the moon and stars.
I never for once thought that man came back into my life because he missed me and the grass wasn't greener on this other side. Now, do I think the grass wasn't greener on the side? Probably not. But that was about a man needing to know that a woman that he had dated and had been intimate with could not possibly move on. He needed to know that he still had control over my body, that he had control over my emotions, that he could make me upset, or he could make me happy, or that he could snap and I'd be right back with him. And for me, that date was about saying, oh no, honey, power isn't about proving that you're unbreakable, because we're all breakable to a point. But power is being able to look somebody in the eye and be like, and say, you won't break me. And that date was about me being able to say, I think you're wonderful, but you don't control this.
Maybe next time you give your woman a little respect, so you won't be hearing her say, no way. No, you're never gonna get it. Not this time. Never gonna get it. My love, no, you're never gonna get it. Had your chance to make the change. No, you're never gonna get it. Not this time.
I realized that had I come back, had I been so grateful and happy that this man was now paying me attention again and gone back into, that type of situation with him, I would have been a part of his harem. Because whereas I thought he had moved on to somebody else, he hadn't moved on. He basically wanted her and me and whoever else he was dealing with too. And quite frankly, I don't get down like that, because I don't know where she's been, I don't know where your lips have been, I don't know where her, I don't do that, But that's how harems get formed. They get formed by men who need the ego strokes of having multiple women who are on the line, and they get formed by men who, go dabble here, they go dabble there, and they give you just enough bait, just enough promise to keep you on the line so that you'll remain sexually loyal and attached to them, even though they're not holding up their end of the deal. And how many women are just scared in general to even voice what it is they want from a man for fear that it will scare him off?
When you like it, you lose it. And I'm out the door.
Even if you don't currently have more than one person in your life, just don't prematurely commit to men who've yet to commit to you. If he has not committed to you, then he should not really be reaping the benefits of someone who has committed. Because when we think about dating and courtship, it really is a negotiation. And it started being a negotiation the moment 200,000 years ago when mitochondrial Eve existed, when men and women decided that they wanted different things. When women suddenly got the power to choose, and they knew that they had to choose a man that was going to invest in them, time, energy, resources, and men still wanted sex, and for the first time you had this disharmony of what he wants and what she wants, it became a negotiation. And the negotiation is this, that we are going to come together, sex will be the end game, but we are negotiating the terms under which that sex will happen. A lot of women have not taken the time to determine what those terms are. And there are two very important questions in any negotiation. The first question is, what does the other party want? The second question is, what will the other party settle for? A lot of women have not voiced what they wanted, only what they will settle for, and what ends up happening is they're settling.
No, 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 no. No! The French are fled to die for love. They delight in fighting duels.
And in any negotiation, the first thing you need to do is be willing to walk away. The second thing you need to do is know that you have the upper hand when you have options. So women, please, 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 please give yourself options. Do not prematurely commit to a man just because he told you he might one day, will, maybe commit to you.
I've heard of affairs that are strictly platonic, but diamonds are a girl's best friend.
The fact that we are primed to believe the promises that men give us the fact that we have this culture of casual sex in which women become very emotionally and physically attached to men that haven't attached to them, and also the fact that we exist in this society where there's slut shaming, so women feel very uncomfortable about dating multiple men at one time as if somebody's going to judge them, but who cares? I think those three things come together to really discourage women from exercising their options. But I'm here to tell you that power is your birthright, that dating is a negotiation, and that the only way you're going to get what you want is to, number one, know what you want, not being afraid to voice what you want, giving yourself options, and as always, being willing to walk away.
And now it's time for a breakdown.
Never gonna get it, 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 never gonna.
So with that, please like and subscribe. There will be more empowering videos coming your way. My name is Ayesha. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I will see you soon.